Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka nabi Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. How's everybody doing? Ooh, that was a weak one right there. Try that again. How's everybody doing? Alhamdulillah. So alhamdulillah, a few nights of Ramadan have passed us by. Very good nights. It's been awesome being with you. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to continue to bless us in this month the way that He has so far. One of the fundamental beliefs that we have in our religion, as you all know, is al-Iman bil-Yawm al-Akhir, is believing in the last day. And our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to teach his companions and mention different narrations about the last day, describing the last day for them. And one of the wisdoms of that is because he wanted to prepare them. And part of preparing them was letting them know what they could expect. So he would describe to them what the last day was going to be like. Another reason why, or another way that he wanted to prepare them, was to tell them what they could do to make that day, which is extremely frightening, extremely horrifying, extremely taxing, and anxiety-causing. He wanted to prepare them, give them tools that could make it lighter for them, easier for them, more bearable for them, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, in one of the hadith, which is known as hadith al-Shafa'ah, the hadith of intercession, where the Prophet describes the last day, he mentioned, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, أن الله يجمع الأولين والآخرين في سعيد واحد. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to gather the first people and the last people, all of mankind, from the beginning of time to the end of time, all of them on one vast plain. Just picture that. Picture that. All of the people that have ever lived on the earth will be on one vast plain, all together. And he said that in addition to that, all of them being together, smashed up together like sardines, that the sun will be brought close to them. To the point that one of the narrators said, ala miqdar al-mil. It will be as close to them as a mile. The sun as close to them as a mile. Now you all know the sun is very, very far away from us. But on a hot day in the summer, when you go out, what happens? What happens when you go out on a hot day, as far as the sun is away from us, on a hot day, immediately? Sometimes you just step out of the house and immediately you beat up and sweat, don't you? So the Prophet ﷺ said the sun will be brought close, so close, it will be almost the distance of a mile, and naturally people will sweat. But on that day, they won't sweat based upon the heat. They'll sweat based upon their deeds. He said some people, as they sweat, based upon their deeds, the sweat will gather around them, and some of them will be standing in a pool of sweat that reaches their ankles. Some of them in a pool of sweat that reaches their knees. Some of them in a pool of sweat that reaches their waists. And then he said, وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يُلْجِمُهُمُ الْعَرَقِ إِلْجَامًا. And from them are those who will be bridled by sweat, and he did his hand like this, almost drowning in their sweat because of the bad deeds that they did. Imagine that situation. People in that situation will want an exit, don't you think? They'll want a way out. And this is how the Prophet ﷺ, in addition to describing these horrible circumstances that people will be in, the mercy of the Prophet ﷺ prompted him to also tell us how we can prepare ourselves for that day, to lighten that burden, to make it easier. And so he said in the hadith of Uqbat ibn Amr, he said, كل امرئ في ظل صدقته حتى يفصل بين الناس. He said But every person on that day, when the sun will be brought close, will be under the shade of his sadaqah, under the shade of the charitable offerings he gave. And he will stay shaded by those charitable offerings until the time when Allah divides people into fariqan fil jannah wa fariqan fis sayyir, a group in paradise and a group in the hellfire. He will stay shaded. He won't experience that sweat, that heat. He won't experience it like the other people, because why? He'll be shaded by his sadaqah. So in this hadith, the Prophet is encouraging us to prepare ourselves for that day by giving, by being generous, by not letting an opportunity to give and be generous pass us by, and to never belittle any amount of sadaqah. To the point that some of the early Muslims, they used to say that there were people amongst them who no day would come to them except that they gave something in charity. And the thing that they would give, it might be something that we would think was trivial, but it was a big deal to them, because they understood that by giving this charity every day, giving something, what were they doing to their shade? Making it bigger and bigger and bigger. More able to protect them, thicker and thicker and thicker, more able to protect them. To the point that one of the early Muslims, he used to, every day, he would give something. It could be a ka'ka, a pastry, basala, an onion, keda, or something like that. Something that we would think is insignificant, but they would give it. What this teaches us, brothers and sisters, is that whenever an opportunity to give comes to us, we should give. And we should never look around us and say, well, what will people say if I only give this? We shouldn't be concerned about what people will say in this world. We should be concerned about that day when we will need that shade. And realize that $1, a few cents, a 5, a 10, $20, given in the way of Allah, could do what? Could make all the difference on that day, to the point that some of the early Muslims would give a pastry, a piece of a pastry, a basala, an onion. In what? In charity, as a sadaqah. And so this is important for us to realize in this month, because this is the month of al-Jud wal-Karam. This is the month of generosity, the month of giving. The month in which we teach ourselves, we train ourselves to give. And one of the things we need to realize too, and I'll say this and I'll close, is that giving starts with home. And this is home. And so as you are looking for some place to give, some cause to give to, this is a good place for you to start to think. What can I do for my mosque? What can I do for the place where I worship? What can I give? Not just because it's a good thing to give, and give charity starts at home, but thinking about that dil that you will need on the day of resurrection. Remember, we talked about this last Friday, and I'll mention it here. We have the pledge forms, and we're encouraging everyone, man, woman, child, to take a pledge form and fill it out. And we're asking, encouraging also, that when you fill that form out, that the minimum amount be $1,000. Some people can do that. $85 a month or less, we can do that. If you can't, do what you can. But everyone should donate. Everyone should give to their mosque. Everyone, this is all of our mosque. All of us should have a hand in making it better, improving it, taking care of it. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.